It's funny because I've been following, well, I shouldn't say it's funny, it's interesting because I've been following this live stream all day. And I know many people here. There's, Rose I've known for many years, and I know she's worked in Aboriginal Head Start, Health, community member. I actually worked at the Health Canada a long time ago on RCAP, so I won't say how many years ago. Aboriginal Nurse Association in Canada. So Marilee I've known for a long time. I've known a lot of people here. So I'm remiss in saying, Claudette could not be here tonight, so she extends her regrets and, wishes that you had a great day. So I want to start with saying, Kwe kakina. Good day to everyone. Chimigwech kichumanido. Pijajik kakina nishnabeg aki. Thank you, Creator. And I am happy to see everyone here at this event on the ancestral lands of the Algonquin people. I am honored to have been asked by my cousin Claudette to provide a closing with you in a culturally appropriate way. That's our protocol. And in the closing of the GAP conference in the next 150 years of reconciliation and health. So I'm honored with the confidence that she bestowed in me. And as mentioned, my name is Jerry Lanouette. I'm a member of the Mi'kmaq, which is the Algonquins Barrier Lake First Nations. And my wife, Wendy, is from Niashingaming, which is on the lower part of Georgian Bay in Ontario. And so are both my children, my son and my daughter. So what I find interesting is reconciliation. In my mind, we've always worked on reconciliation. We've always tried to build those bridges, work on the gaps. And, I remember first hearing mainstream asking, what is reconciliation? So good friend of mine, which many of you know, Senator Murray Sinclair, about, was it 3 years ago? I was at Carleton University giving a talk around First Nations governance, and Senator Sinclair was there, and as you know, he's a former chair of the TRC. He reaffirmed that by saying that if you thought getting to the truth was hard, getting to reconciliation is going to be really hard. And again, I thought in hearing him, that was so true. And how do you engage people in respecting the calls to action? That's a big, big, monumental task. I also worked about 3 years ago on a paper with Dr. Amy Bombay and Grand Chief Wilton Littlechild, who again was also a former commissioner of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. And he described it as about being accountable as a country for the unfinished business of Confederation, ensuring that we continue the truth-telling and the progress on decolonization, and that's what he saw about reconciliation. So residential schools were probably the biggest impact on First Nations or Aboriginal people here in Canada. My mom, Jean Dolly Manach, was a survivor of the Spanish Girls Residential School and of the tuberculosis sanitarium where she caught, she caught TB in the residential school. And funny enough, thankfully enough, she met my dad there, who was also a patient. So started my legacy of being an intergenerational survivor. My mom was also a victim of electroshock therapy at the Brockville Mental Institute in the 70s. That's not so far ago. My brother Perry, he passed away homeless, not far from here, on a park at Somerset and Lyon. And he was an alcoholic, and he drowned in his sleep. He didn't know he had pneumonia. My sister Roxanne, at 39, she had a master's degree in social work. She worked with our First Nations community members. And she also was raised by my parents and had a lot to deal with, especially around mental health. And to the point where when she was working around the legacy of our people, she had a hard time dealing with that, and that ultimately led to her taking her own death by suicide. So in 1979, after I got out of the Army, I came back to Ottawa. And I've been working since then in promoting First Nations history, culture, traditional rights. And I have done so in various forms. I've been a public servant. I worked with First Nations organizations. And I continue to be a strong advocate for the youth because they are our elders of tomorrow. The biggest factor that I see affecting reconciliation is by not raising awareness of our past history, because those who forget about history or are unwilling to learn about our history are doomed to repeat it. So I continue to engage and support our youth, as, like I mentioned, they are the elders of tomorrow. The voices of our women, our girls, our youth, and their families speak of healing and justice and protection from all segments of society and from this country, and reconciliation has to be part of that. So currently, I work for the National Inquiry of Murdered and Missing Indigenous Women. I hear these stories every day of how residential schools affected not only my life, but also the lives of Aboriginal people across the country, not only First Nations, but Métis and Inuit people. So I take that to heart when I see people working on reconciliation. I applaud you for continuing this path for the next 150 years. It's not an easy path. There's a lot of racism in Canada. I've seen it firsthand. When I moved here in 1972 to live with my parents to go to high school, the first words I heard out of fellow students in grade 9 was, "Hey, wagon burner, Chief Wahoo, what are you doing here?" My hair was down back here, and of course, you know, I look much different than I do now. But the one thing that helped me throughout high school was an understanding principal and understanding teachers. So for that, I say, Chimigwech, Creator. You can pray in your own faith if you want. And please bless us all with a good life. And thank you, Creator, for your love. And please keep the young men and families from the Humboldt Broncos in your prayers. And also the young child that passed away from health issues a couple of days ago, and the family members. And Miigwech, I thank you all for being involved in your strength, your participation in today's event, and moving forward with reconciliation. Miigwech.